Samech Vav, Cheshvan, New Mimer, page Pei.
Mimer do I must be telling keep touch. So we saw in the previous Mimer of Rob Bobby Yomim, we saw the Mila of Yigir B'Torah, and we began that Mimer with a famous quote from the Zohar HaKodesh on a pasuk that was brought at the beginning of the Hemshech, where Yeshayahu Hanavi says that Ayin lo yiroso Elokim zulaselcha, that there's certain level that no eye can ever see, only the Eibishter alone, Elokim zulaselcha. However, Yasel Machake Loi, that somebody who waits and earnestly looks forward or expects, lives in expectation, you might say. Yasel Machake Loi, that will be given or made or done for he who is a Machake to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we saw that the Gemara, we brought down at the beginning of the Hemshech, how the Gemara Masechet Brachos deals with that inyan, and then here at the beginning of Ram Zokein we quoted from the Zohar Kodesh, where the Zohar in Chelik Aleph brings down that what does it mean, those who wait for the Eibishter. So he brings down a pasuk from Eof, where it's written that Eliyahu, he was one of the comforters, that he called the Job's comfort, the people they tried to be Menachem and Mechazik Eof. His man Tzorosoi, that it's written there, Chiko es Eof bidvorim. So what does it mean that he waited literally for Eof? Not that he waited, but he anticipated, and he looked forward to the effect that these words would have on Eof, and he had high expectations that what he said would be mashpia on Eof. So we see that the word lechakos, to wait, is like to anticipate, to look forward, to patiently work at a certain inyan that so it should have its pu'ula and its effect. So then the Zohar Kodesh says that that's Zolcha Yidden, that pasuk is being marames to Yidden, that they are literally waiting for the Eibishter al Torah, and they are medactic, and they're careful, and they wait, and they spend a lot of time on every diuk in Divrei Torah, and they push themselves, and they make it so difficult for themselves. The dachinen lamila the chukmes of a daikinen lay, that they push hard at every little word of wisdom in their learning, and they make a lot of dikdukim, and they wait and they anticipate to find out what is the emes of birur, the emes of emes from that inyan. So that's the inyan from hope and waiting and anticipation. So the Rebbe said that that's the inyan from Yigir B'Torah, but even clearly we went with a big arichas in the Maimon that was learning Torah dafki with effort and striving, with what we call the inyan from Ikuv, holding back and anticipating, and Yigir in the inyan of Limud HaTorah. And we saw that dafki ali deizeh, the mensch is zeicher to the oimek and panimius akavona of every inyan in Torah. It comes to the emes, how it is mitzad the oimek, and not only just the oimek of the haskola and the musag of the oimek of the kavona. What is the panimius and what is the ultimate purpose of inyan zev b'Torah v'chulu? And we saw that that's the inyan of what the Zohar Kodesh says, man the deichinon and dochinen li'atzmon b'mila the chukmesa v'chakohen leila minda breira de milza. They wait and they anticipate to know what is the emes birur, the emes clarification, and the emes lamita of that particular inyan. And we saw that al yidei zeh, Ayid, what he learns, but even Kozer, he comes to the Amitius Muvan and the Amitius Soger, even if he's not a Baal Kisher in Melachatchila, even if he's not how they call it, a swift head and as they say in Yiddish, a sharp kop. He's not necessarily a sharp mind and a sharp head when it comes to Arichus Melachatchila. They just seen from the Yigia and the scene we saw the description. That whole Indian Barichus in the Maimah, he can come to the Oimik and to the Emes more than a brilliant person who sees a lot of the Inyanim, what he comes to, the hard work, Melachatchila. But a person who sees the Melachatchila, because of his blessed Kishreinas, he doesn't necessarily reach the whole Oimik HaKavana. Amiti is the person not so blessed, but he puts in the effort and the struggle. And the Yigia, he comes to the Amiti HaKavana. So at the end of the Maimah, we compared that interestingly enough to the Ina we saw in the Maimah that we just completed, at the beginning of that Maimah upon him, we saw the difference between Oyer Yosher and Oyer Chayzer. And we saw that there was the mile of Oyer Chayzer over Oyer Yosher. So we saw that the Yigia B'Torah and the effort and the Achinen and the Aikin B'Mil and the Chokmes, that was held out at the Ina from Oyer Chayzer. In other words, the year is Nimshach and afterwards goes back to Shorshoi. And that was Tavkis for the Yigia, where that backs up the Nakuda that we made over in the moment that we just learned. That Oyer Chayzer always is in some way linked with a Inim from Koyach or some form, a return force, a feedback force. The Koyach, which obliges the earth to go back, and then it goes back to take of Otzum. And then it reaches its Sheresh, Yeser from the Sheresh Rishon from which it was Nimshach. But then it goes back to Pnimis V'Atzmiyas Hamokya, what was like we saw when I get to it's Tchilason, V'Seifon, B'Tchila, so that we saw there was Mylin Tchila over Rashis. That's all at the beginning of the Rimshah. The Rebbe was married in that whole Inya. Like it's also Mavur in the Mittler Rebbe in one of his drushim. After you come back to where you started, but then you go deeper and higher than where you started. In other words, you surpass the Shurish of where Yoshor, and you go back into a much higher and deeper Shurish. And that's what we saw here that he brought down at the end of the Maimah. Through that Yigia and that Daichin, but Milan the Chokhamas, as Ali Day said, the Adam stood in a matzah from Oyer Chayzer, that he was going back to Mata Lamaila, and that caused him to reach the Koyach HaYuli HaAtzmi, that he went back higher than the Koyach HaMaskil, sort of the Koyach HaMaskil. But that's the Shurish HaYuli, from which all the Sichliim, which appear to a Mensch, Nimshach. That's also a high Madrega, that's the Inyam, as we call it, that's the Inyam from Keser, the Sheba Chochma. Or I'm sorry, Chochma Sheba Keser. As we saw in the Maimah Baricha, I don't know if you guys remember anything, but I don't know if anybody was here when we learned the Maimah. But Achoponim, that's called the Inyam from Chochma Sheba Keser, and Alidei, the Yigia, and the struggle, and the effort, Iyun, Yigia Satera, then he goes even higher than that. He goes back into the Koyach HaYuli HaAtzmi HaAtzmamish Kol in the Etzem HaNefesh. But that's higher. That's not a Inyam from Seichel Klal as we understand it, and that's higher than even the Hiyuli, the Koyach Klali of Seichel that isn't the Koyach HaMaskil. And he goes back Dafki into the, and we saw that was the Inyam from Avraham Zokim, Bo B'Yomim, the Dafki through the Inyam from Yigia, the Nisyanes. It was interesting, we dealt last week in the Shir Klali with the Mile of Nisyanes. Well, I don't know about the Mile, it's on the Day of Shadal. We say every day in davening loyally day Nisoyim. We're allowed to ask, we shouldn't have Nisyanes. But if we do have Cholila and Nisyanes, and we have to stand in them, Dafki Alei come to the Emes HaMaila that we saw Barichas in the Shir Klali. So the Rebbe brings at the end of this Maimah, that was the Maila from Avraham Avinu, that he had all these nisyonos, and after that, he went back into the Helem Ha'atzmi of Chochmah, that's the Koyach Ha'yul Ha'atzmi Be'etzem HaNefesh, and therefore he was able to Giluyim in Sichloi, and in his understanding of the whole Inyan for Elikus, Lagami Shaloi Be'erach, how it was by Shah Chochmah Yader, other people, v'chule, but against Arichas, it's well known that Dafki B'schus, his Peshitas and his Tamimas, and he's going through all the Nisyenos, Dafki through that, Avraham Avinu came to Milas in Haskola, and in Seichel, and the idea that made him Ein to all the other people, B'Doira, and for that matter, all the other people, B'Shari HaDoiras. And we saw that was Hashem Beirach as Avraham Bar Koyel, that the Eibster blessed him with everything, at the time he blessed him even with the Inyan van Helem in Inyan Chochmah, which is not usually miskala to other people. Dafki to him it was miskala through the Aveda van Yagia, or Daichinenlei, in the Aveda Sanishen. So that was just a quick summing up of the previous Maimon. But no doubt those who learned the Maimon with us have some memory of all that. If they don't, then maybe they should do a bit of Chazorah, and if they do, then hopefully they also gain something from the brief Chazorah. But it's well known that one of the Inyonim in Yugia is to go back over what you learn. Ochaponim, we now move on to B'Shatta D'Shmaya, Shabbos Parsha Teildois, Reis Samech Vav. And now we begin with the famous bracha that Yitzchak Avinu gave to Yankiv. This is the famous bracha that he really intended to give to Esau. Although Lapuyo, it went to Yankiv Avinu, on the day what Yankiv Avinu made the famous, I don't know how to call it, Eiter that he did. He came dressed in the skins of Esau, with the whole Arichas HaSipur was brought down in the Torah over there. So what the Maisa, what did Yitzchak say at the beginning of his blessing? And he said, "V'yitein lecho ho'elikim mital hashomayim u'mishmane ha'oretz, from the fats of the earth, v'roi dogon v'siroish, and he should give you much flock, much crops and much oil, dogon v'siroish." Ve'isha b'medrash Rabbah, that's one on the famous medrash, brought down in the Meforshim over there. Ve'isha b'medrash, Rashi also mentions certain inyonim of this medrash. Ve'isha b'medrash Rabbah mital hashomayim ze mikro. What did he mean by giving him and saying to him he should have? Ve'inif and tal hashomayim, he meant scripture. How do you call it? Mikro, meaning chumash. Chumash and Sifrei Nevi'im Kesuvim, the written Torah, you might call it. Umishmani ha'oretz ze Mishnah, and from the fats of the earth, well, that means the Mishnah. V'reiv Dogon is Talmud, that's learning of the Gemara, as it were, the Inyan Gemara. V'siroish Agadata, Agada, well, that's the, what you might call the Agadata sections of the Talmud. So Kuntais, that Lafi that medrash, Yitzchak Avinu, thinking it was Esav, of a Lapuya the day Hashgacha Pratis, it was Yankiv, he benched him with an amazing bracha, what everybody understands that this was a bracha, Claudius, which was a gear to all of his generations to come. Bamir and Nagir to Yidden and everything that would going to come from Meshach, and he gave him the Inyan from Torah. He benched him with Mikra, and with Mishnah, and with Talmud, and with the Gadata. But Tzarich lahavin, mahu inyan shebirchoi b'Torah. What does it mean that Yitzchak benched Yankiv, meaning Esau, but Lapuya he benched Yankiv with Torah, because all these inyanim are different pratim and stages in Limud Torah. V'haloi ha'Torah nitno leYisrael b'matan Torah. Behold, he said, the Indian from Torah was given to Yisrael, to Yidden how they were Neshamas Yisrael. Yidden how they shachas to being Yisrael, Dafke, Neshamas, which is shach to what's called the Neshamas of Yidden Dafke, b'matan Torah, at the time of Matan Torah. So, in Pashtus, with first glance, then the implication of the question is, and this was before Matan Torah, this was way back in the time of the Ovids. But we'll see that it's a little bit more than that. I'll put him just at first glance. This was a long time before Matan Torah, meaning that Torah per se wasn't really begolui in the world. It hadn't been given yet. And it was only meant to be given to those neshamas after the generations and after Yetzias Mitzrayim, that they were called neshamas Yisrael. And here we're talking about Yaakov and Esau and Yitzchak Avinu. What they're not mamish neshamas Yisrael. Even though it's hard to say that they're not, they're something else. And it's hard to say that the diuk is, it's well known, the famous question, whether the Ovis al pi halacha, whether they had a din of B'nai Noach, or whether they had a din of Kilu Yidden. It's well known, the famous Shakira and the famous sefer from the Chidor, the Mishnah Ramelech. He wrote a sefer, what they call it again. I can't think of the name, so the Precious Trochim, and the Sefer Precious Trochim, the famous Chakira as to whether Yidden, whether our father for the Avon Yitzchiyakim, the Shvatim, whether they had a din of B'nai Noach, they were mamish like Goyim, special Goyim, knew all sorts of high inyonim, or whether they had a certain din like Yidden. And even if we'll say they had a din like Yidden, they weren't mamish. There's even Yidden Kipshute, but Al-Chapon, they had certain, they were noyeg, and the Avish was noyeg with them, certain chumras, and inyonim which is shy to how Yidden would be in the Deros Aboy. So they had a din of not B'nai Noach, and Nishma Mamish, Yidden B'shleimus of Al-Chapon, they were doima to Yidden. So it's a bit hard to say that that's the answer, Kashi. They weren't yet Mamish Yidden, and the Torah was given later to Yisrael. So let's wait and see what kilo we can build out of this whole thing. V'tchilas hakavona, the Rebbe said the very beginning of the whole kavona of the Eibishter in creating the world and giving the Torah into the world, v'tchilas hakavona oyoso sheyitnu Torah Yisrael. The infant Torah would be given dafke to Yidden. In other words, it's not just that the Eibishter had a kavanah when he made the world to give the Torah, and the Torah had to be in the world, but the whole original kavanah linked Yisrael with the Torah, and Torah had to be given dafke to the Yidden, how they're called Neshamas Yisrael. How do we see that? Ukemaima, and he brings down a famous medrash report in many places in Chassidus. It's a medrash rabba in, if I'm not mistaken, it's in Shmoyis. Ukemaima, Eila Tildes, Hashamayim V'Oretz. It's written, these are the Tildes of the heavens, and there's right in Bereshis, after Shiva Shemay Bereshis. These literally are the story of the generations of the heavens and the earth. Eile, and the word, and we see the pasuk begins with the word Eile. Eile Tildes Shemay. So the medrash is medactic, and medrash says Eile, b'schus mi nivro, or b'schus mi oimdim. Or these Eile, or this Eile, which is called Tildes Hashamayim V'Oretz, in whose merit literally were they created from the beginning, and in whose merit b'schus mi oimdim. In other words, in whose merit are they able to continue standing? What keeps them going? In other words, the question is, in whose schus did they come into being right from the beginning, and in whose schus do they keep going? In other words, there's two inyonim. First of all, there's a ishabas of a thing, the etzem hamtzor, v'gila of a thing, and then there's the kiyum adina, the thing that keeps remaining away from kozeh. And particularly as we know that everything is created in even from yesh mi'ayin, and yesh mi'ayin implies that a thing doesn't necessarily have a kiyum in any way mitzad itself. Its whole kiyum is only in the koyach which is machadish or mahaveh. And one thing is for it to come about at the first instance. Yesh min ha'ayin v'efes hamugla comes out from absolute zero, from absolute nothing. But then it's got to keep going. So there's two inyanim, says the Medrash. First of all, the schus and how did the cloud come into being, and then there's the schus of what keeps it and what preserves it. So therefore, you said of these eile till shashamayim va'oretz. In which schus do they get brought about, and in which schus do they continue existing? B'schus eile shmois b'nei b'schus eile shmois b'nei roel. In other words, that the Medrash plays on the word eile, and it says that eile is referring to Tel Shashamayim. So this eile, how did it have its yisavas and its kiyum? Through another eile. So in other words, that's being meramas to another eile. And what is the other eile? Eile shmois b'nei Yisrael. In other words, the whole parsha shmois begins with the expression eile shmois b'nei Yisrael. So what do we see from that? We see that the whole heavens and the earth is totally in Yidden. That if it hadn't been for Yidden, if it weren't for the fact that there's such things in the Shomas Yisrael, then there wouldn't be Shemayim v'oretz. Ve'eila, now the Medrash goes further, and it says ve'eila, and that eila, which you just brought a riot that they're like the kiyum of the Shemayim v'oretz, those, or that eila, b'schus mi, were they brought about a b'schus mi, aim kayomim, and how do they keep going? He says, b'schus eila ha'edus v'amish, eila ha'edus v'amish potim. In other words, eila ha'edus v'amish potim is referring to the Torah. So the Torah is also called eila. So we see that it's a fascinating idiom. When you look at it, you see that the whole Shemayim v'oretz, and the whole bria of the heavens and the earth, and the kiyum of the heavens and the earth, is because of Yidden. Kiyum that Yidden are the first consideration. Because of Yidden, it came about the whole idiom from Shemayim v'oretz. And then we say, and Yidden, what's their kiyum? What brought them about, or in what schus did they come about, and in what schus do they keep remaining? In the idiom from Torah. So Chayah would have thought the other way around. Chayah would have thought, first of all, Torah was like the blueprint of the whole creation, as a Zoktazar, Pasha Truma. And then who's Mekayim the Torah? Who keeps everything going is the Yidden from Yidden. So he says the Seder is under us. The whole koyach and the whole point behind the whole creation was Yidden. What is the koyach that Yidden have? What keeps them going? They didn't even tell. So you might say, well, maybe who here understand it? If there weren't Torah, there wouldn't be Yidden. So of the very fact that you put the Yidden from Torah from Yidden first, well, that tends to indicate that Yidden are the ganze schus from heavens and earth, that the Yidden from Shomas Yisrael, from Yidden. That would be good with what's brought down and come in Maimrei Chatzal, that the world can't hold out without Yidden, and it can't be the Yidden from the winds and all the else is totally in Yidden. And Mamela that's what the Medrash says. And, however, what do we see from that? That the Inyan from heavens and the earth is dependent in Yidden, and Yidden are dependent in Torah. Right from the very beginning of the creation, the Kavanah was that there should be Yidden and there should be Torah. Meaning that Yidden, that the Torah would only come when there was a Matthias for Yidden. And however, it shouldn't be at this particular point when Yitzchak was benching Yankov, there wasn't a Matthias of Yidden in the world yet. And there wasn't any necessity or any place for Torah. Torah came when Yidden came into being. Yeah, so what was with the world up till Biz Yamo? You remember the world? So the Gemara brings down in Sector Vedazora, the world was waiting and it was hanging for that moment. Yom HaShishi, you say it every Friday night. Before you start Vayichur Hashemayim V'Orah, you say Yom HaShishi. Yom HaShishi. That's the Shabbos. It was Yom HaShishi. So the Gemara thought that Yom HaShishi, that was the day that the Torah was given. The Torah was given B'Shishi B'Sivan. Yom HaShishi, that was the day that the whole Bria, I was anxiously awaiting it, because if not that, then the world didn't really have any reason to exist and to be there and to hold out, because it was all totally in Torah and it was totally in Yidden. It follows Lafizeh, not just totally in Torah and Yidden, although it's totally in the fact that they are Yidden and they have to be Makabel the Torah, because how's the Torah going to have any shaykhs if there's no Makabelimus at Torah? Somebody has to take it. And so who's going to take it? Yidden. Therefore, the whole Inyan is totally in Yidden and in Torah. That there wasn't any Yidden and any Torah, then the world was waiting for the Torah, but it actually come about yet. It was benched Yitzchak, Yankov, with a Inyan for Torah. It's totally Matthias of Yidden that hadn't, wasn't yet cured that Inyan. So that's the Medrash. And now he says, "V'tnai yisna Kodesh Baruch Hu b'ma'aseh Bereshit." That's what they quote from the Gemara in Sector Vedazora. That's what another mimer of our sages. "V'tnai yisna Kodesh Baruch Hu b'ma'aseh Bereshit im yekaymu Yisrael es haTorah chulu." So what's written over there? That the Eibusha made a condition with the whole Ma'aseh Bereshit. He said, "Listen here, world, that if the Yidden, Yekaimu Yisrael es haTorah," so we see not only they'll be Makabel, but they'll also keep. In other words, that they've got to be Makabel the Torah, and they've got to be Makayim the Torah. If Yidden will do that, then Mutav, then, as he stated, Mutav. Mutav means, okay, that'll be good. V'im loy, the Rebbe doesn't quote the rest of it. Lo lech b'tzad negative, because that's not really Nagel, the Inyo Neino. The Gemara says that Im loy cholila achser es ha'olam l'toyo v'avoyu rachmani nitzlan, that the Eibusha would give back the world into like it was before the whole creation, toyo v'avoyu, adequate unshaped confusions. Hashem Yishmarenu. And it's well known, the famous Tiyuk from the Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe, and from the Rebbeim, from the Gel, that if you take on yourself Torah and you make Torah, then the world's a world. It's an ordered world and a proper world, a good world. But if Cholila, a man doesn't take on himself the infant Torah, and he's not, then he's denying the condition that there was in the whole of creation. If I'm like Gabi him, there can be such a Inyan as Achse Soelim Latoyo Vavoyo. He can live in a confused state. Money is not doing a bulbul and a confusion. V'chule, even though he may be walking around with a sign on him saying, "I'm enjoying life," etc., etc. But he's really in a bulbul from Toyo Vavoyo. Upon him. So we see that even more. The Gemara says, not just that written that way was a Tanai. What a Tanai means, that's like the Gemara said. And a Tanai has to be a Tanai Kofel. It's one of the famous Arichas of the Gemara. But you get the Indian from Tanai in Masechta Kiddushin, V'ed Mekaymis, that a Tanai has to be what's called a double Tanai. It's got to be the positive and the negative. It's whatever the Gemara says, it was a condition. It wasn't just the Eibishter made it that way. It was Mamisha. If the Yidden will be Makabel and Makayim the Torah, then there'll be a world, okay? And he's always, how they say it in Yiddish, always felt. So we see that it's even more than just, these are dependent in these, they're mamish dependent, and it's a condition. Please ain't called kiyum to the union of the world. Davke alidei, the union. Aloi, said the Rebbe. Behold, from all that you can see that Ikar HaKavona de Brias Visavas HaOilom Hoyo B'Shviyo She'ikablu Yisrael as HaToiro. And we see that the whole Kavona that the Eibishter had, because before you get moving, that's when you reveal what your Kavona is, or Al Chapon, that's when you know what your Kavona is. And so before it was all done, the Eibush was already Megala to us. Before he actually got, as you might call, busy with the Inif and Brias of Shamayim V'Oretz for Kol Bohem and everything which is Nugea to the Inyan of the creation, he was Megala. What was his Kavana? Or Al Chaponim was Mishkaleh in Torah. What was his Kavana? Well, that was that there should be Yidden and that Yidden shouldn't be Mekabel the Torah. If that will be, then that's enough, and that is the kiyum of the condition and the t'nai that Ali Day said we can create the world, and the world can have a kiyum. Says the Rebbe Lafi said, and asked herself the Shaila ve'im kein mahu borchei batoiro. Is why is it Molama beirachoi batoiro? What is it that he benched Yankiv with the Indian Torah? So the question is a rather mystifying question. It wasn't easy. It wasn't the kushi. We have to sort of be misamik. Yes, can is the amkus in the kushi. It's not noticeable at first glance. I mean, if the kavanah was to say the whole from Matan Torah was shot to Yidden, and they weren't Yidden yet, so that's what he should say. Why is it? They weren't any Yidden yet. It was he benching him with Torah. Torah's only later when Matan Torah, and that was when it was Yidden. But he doesn't say that. He says right from the beginning. He says, why did he bench him with Torah when Torah was given to Yisrael, and the whole kavanah of the Torah was that there should be Yidden and the world, and it's all bound up one with the other. That without Yidden there can't really be the Kiyum Ha'olam, and the whole Isavas of the Olam wouldn't have taken place when not Yidden were going to be Kayim and Makabel the Torah, and that's the Kiyum of the Torah. Yeah, with the whole Arichas that we saw in the Medrash there. Is Mamela asks herself to Shaila, Lafi here, what is the kasha that the Rebbe says? Im kein ma beroche b'Torah. Why did Yitzchak bench Yankiv b'Torah? What's l'chera? L'chera we can answer it fairly simply. We say, well, ain't no chanami. Everything was totally in Yidden and everything was totally in Matan Torah. But the obvious there, the Shorish of the Shamash Yisrael. I mean, all Yidden come out of there. The obvious, and the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Perek Yud Ches, the Alter Rebbe says that Avraham Avinu was able to be Mamshich Neshamis, Kedoishes Neshamis, which is Shai Tiyidin, Yelachol Zari Ad Sof Kol HaDeres, Alidei Masirus Nefesh, Alidei that he was a Merkava, and the obvious Hein Merkava, he's called the other obvious as well. Gami means Beika Avraham Avinu. So the Yidden stem from the fathers in a way that the Neshamas of Neshamas Yisrael anyway come from the fathers. The noise of Lakol Zeh, the Gemara says clearly and brought down in the Samech or the Adkan, the obvious were Mekayim is Kol HaTorah Kula Ad Shaloi Nitna. They were Mekayim the ganze Torah. So Emma, she can be Machalik and say that it wasn't Mamish Torah the way it was. Leachar Matan Torah. It was Torah more Ruchnias, it was with all the different biurim that there are, but again to what was the difference between the Torah how it was by the Ovis and the Torah how it was Leachar Matan Torah. It's Chilukim Gdolim Ve'ikriim in that Einochaname. But Mitzad Sheni, they did keep the Torah. They were involved in the eating for Torah. And Faket, we see that Avraham Avinu kept the whole Torah. I feel Eir B'Tav Shilin. I feel as Ochin Yonim, what they were only Takonas Midorabonon, that they came Doiris Harbi Leachar Matan Torah, and yet nonetheless, Sofa Baruch Kodshe, that he kept even those in Yonim. And it's hard to say that they kind of Erev Tavshilin Baruchnias. He made Erev Tavshilin Avro. Pasta. That's what. Yeah. Ibamen afraid the Shiloh. What's the big story? Yeah, Yitzchak was a Makabel Torah from Avraham Avinu, and the base medrash on Shein Va'eba was still going because Rivke made went to ask a Shiloh. As we were told at the beginning of the Rashi, this Pasha, we're learning now, Pasha told us. Rashi says that Rivke Mena went to ask a Shiloh by base medrash from Shem Va'eba. So people were learning Torah. There was almost gekocht in Limud HaTorah, how it was by the Ovitzach upon him, how it was by Adam Arishan and by Noach, what they gave over, and Shem, he was the Ike son of Noach, as he was Makabel. Also, the always with the all room and with shame and with chase, and I feel lot of reason. They learned Torah, so they kocht in Torah. They had a huge base medrash of same where Eber and Yankee Avinu went there for 14 years as put down Pasha Vayetzi in Rashi. He went there and learned 14 years on his way out to Choram, and they go, "What you doing?" 14 years is a heck of a long time. And Rashi brings down that he never laid down actually to sleep. He was so into Torah, Yankee Avinu, and he was so unbelievable mashmid belimud Torah that he never actually laid down to sleep. Kol oisen arbois v'shana. But you got to be careful what you say around here in these classes. People shouldn't clap too many giluim. So you guys have to lay down and clap your free shlok isn't right and some best and gesund, as they say. Of all upon him, there come to say that there was a inim from Torah. It was a ganze studium from this whole kasha. Him came ma berocha berachui batoira. We benched him with Torah, was he? Yitzchak Avinu took gekocht in Torah. That was his whole beginning. So he benched him with what he had a kochen. He benched him. So there's a mind from Rebbe, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, where the Rebbe quotes the Sinyan, which put down in the Maimorim Melukotim, the Sefer Maimorim Melukat, Chelik Aleph. But there's a lot of small Maimorim in that Sefer. So there's a small Maimor in Toshin Lamed Aleph with this whole Dibur HaMashki, Yitzchak Avinu benching Yankee with Torah and so on. And over there the Rebbe says that one aspect of the Kasha upon him is that if that's the case, that the whole Kavanas Abriya was originally Tolui in Yidden and in Yidden being Makab the Torah, as in Canaan that happened. There was anyway going to be Matan Torah, and there was anyway going to be Alidei Yidden. Remember, you can encourage your son. You can say, "Listen here, learn a lot, because eventually, your generations after you are going to be makabel the Torah and we haven't got that schus. We're learning to a bit different. Kofsef in them, you encourage him, tell him, and do it. About bracha of this nature is mashma with some sort of a special chiddush dover that Yitzchak gave to Yankee, and that's what you give him a bracha. And everybody was looking for that bracha. Aisha was going for that bracha. And Yankee, Rivka said to Yitzchak, you have to get those to Yankee. You must get those brachas in that time. As they say in Yiddish, is such gekehrt der Welt. the world was turning upside down to get those brachas. So it's much as if a tremendous chiddush that Yitzchak is giving over here. Even that to happen anyway, wasn't that she gave him a bracha. You give him encouragement, tell him to learn, give him a tremendous brand and chayas in learning. Oh, but a bracha, he must know that's kilo ha'inu, what you're bringing down specially, and biladei bracha zu, he wouldn't have had that in him. So look, he would have had a below if he could so. He was also learning Torah. If it was Yaakov, then he was Yoshev Oyalim, as we know. Yeah, it's also put next week in the same parasha. He was sitting in the tents, and Rashi brings, Bo'ele Shel Torah. He was sitting in the tents of Torah. And I mean, that's the way the Rebbe said, one of the inyonim in the kasha is kilo, the palavochi, it's going to happen, or what was the bracha b'zeh? Was it Yitzchak, the mamshik, even a bracha miyuchedes b'zeh? Wuji, kilo wuji to it. Oh, it's a little bit sort of, much better. If so, the Rebbe could have just said, the Rebbe Rashab here in the Maimah, he could have just said, Haloi matan Torah hu mochrach, lama berachim b'zeh. But why does he go to this whole big riches, the world is totally in Yidden, is totally in doers, and the whole thing is totally in the receiving of the Torah, alidei Yidden, and there was a T'nai, and the whole thing. In kein lama berachim b'Torah. So the case is very interesting. It's a very delicate and slightly mystifying issue. What is in effect the shaila? What's the kasha? So the Rebbe said that one of the aspects of the kasha is b'vadai yesh lema, that it's that. Well, you can say just by way of suggestion, and that's by how do you call it, cheating a little bit. And that's what I call by cheating a little bit. There's an old cloud in learning that if you don't understand the kasha, then you can't understand the teretz. First of all, you have to know what's the kasha. Once you know what the kasha is, then you can understand what the teretz did for the kasha. But you can't look in the teretz before you understood the kasha. An old cloud. When you learn a kasha, it teaches, or you can't all of a sudden say, oh yeah, but the teretz is kasha. If you don't understand the kasha, you don't know what the teretz is. So, but if we look over the teretz over here, what ultimately does it ever add? So maybe we get to, and you shouldn't do that nowhere. It's not normally correct practice in learning. First of all, you have to understand the kasha. Later you come to know was it teretz? Or maybe we could say that. So we have to say that the kasha is that the Rebbe is looking for something more. But the whole kasha is hinting that it's not just stam that he blessed him with Torah. Because the Rebbe says that if it's just Torah as Torah per se, as Torah, in the gilui of how Torah comes, what we would call basing ourselves on the previous Maimah, that's fair enough. That's not cheap. To base on what was written in the previous Maimah. In other words, the way Torah comes into the world, how it's connected with the world. In other words, how it's connected with the hidden, had to be Makayim, they had to be Makabel and Makayim, and B'shchus Yidden, B'shchus Torah, that's the kiyum of the world. Otherwise the world, let's go back, is maybe what the Rebbe is hinting is that that's Torah, how it's shayat to the from the Welt, and what you might call the normal situation. There's a level in Torah which is the normal situation. If we're going to say that that's what Yaakov was benching, and it's foreign to say that's what he was doing, Yitzchak was benching Yaakov. Why? Because they hadn't yet been Torah yet. So he's only building up to a situation where be the shleimus of that Indian of being Makabel the Torah and Mamela being Makayim the world through the Indian for Kabbalah Torah. So he's leading up to that. So the Rebbe said, what's it necessary? Therefore we have to say that that's the kashia. And that's what the Rebbe is saying in a slightly different way. The Rebbe said, anyway, that to happen. So if that happened, you was going to give him a bracha after. In other words, it would appear from all of the inyanim around that Torah was given to keep the world and it was given to Yidden, and they have the Torah, through them keeps the world. Yeah. So what I was saying, if that appears, what's happening, that was Kilu Ainin, which would be Dafka through the Yidden from Yidden, not through those who were before, and that was Be'ike Mitkaleh, B'matan Torah. What did Yitzchak Avinu, what did he see in giving that to Yankov? We have to get into the world what quicker so that it should be, otherwise the world's going to fall apart. It's mashmin that Gemara, like I pointed out, that the world was stuck waiting anxiously, but for reasons known to the Eibishter, we waited until the moment of Matan Torah, and then when Matan Torah occurred, then the whole thing got moving through the fact that you had Neshamas Yisrael. And what was the necessity to do that before? It's not mashmir anyway in those Gemaras and those Midrashim that you needed anything before that. Because that's what I'll be saying. Why did he bench him with Torah? Torah's needed in the world, and maybe you can say that they obviously got something to do with Yin. I mean, for sure they do. The Kilo Nishamas Yisrael. Afilo Tim Tzaleim Azeh. What did he bench him? But Torah, Lamu Beirachotoy. But anyway, that was going to be later on. It was already decided that it was going to be later on. And it's Nogea to the Kiyum Ha'olam, but the Elam was able to wait, albeit impatiently, but the Elam was able to wait. That's the Kasha, what I was saying. Yes, he came, why did he have to go now with Yitzchak and bench him by Torah? Elamai, that tends to be hinting, like we said, that there's a in Torah which is shad to the world and shad to Kiyum Ha'olam and all thing. If you just go, if you just assume that that's what Yankov was doing, Yitzchak was doing when he's giving this bracha to Yankov, then you come up to the question, what do we need that was going to anyway be later on? Elamai, it would seem that the Kasha is asking for the fact that you come up with another idea that really something much deeper was going on here. He wasn't just giving a bracha for the sake of the kiyum of the world, because that's going to happen later, and everybody impatiently, albeit, but everybody's waiting for that, and this was not the moment, as it were. And what was he really doing? We'll see that he was really giving him something much deeper. He was giving him in Torah how Torah is beyond just the kiyum of the world, and how Torah is just beyond a necessary t'nai in making the world just be able to keep going. It's not ultimately what the real meaning from Torah is about. I mean, that's kilo Roma Beirach, but Torah is that hinting at the fact that there's really a much deeper Indian, and we want to know what is that. And therefore, the question is, if it's just to keeping the world going, then everybody would have waited till Matan Torah when Yidden came along and they were Mekayim the Torah as according to how it was in the Kabbalah. That's the Kashya. In other words, it's hinting that there must be some much deeper issue involved here. When he blessed him with Torah, he was blessing him not just with the union of Torah as it is connected with the world and the kiyum of the world. He was giving him something much deeper and profounder, and that's what we need to know. What was that? And that's the union for the bracha. But a bracha is a special new thing. And therefore he says, Lama Beirach, but Torah, what's up is this new bracha in Torah? What's its union va'echu? What did he do? Lama Beirach boivim chesed. Sure. Kein yesh lema. Agam Tzorik lahovin. We know to understand Seder HaBrachas. What was this whole amazing Seder that he began with Tala Shomayim and then he went down to Shmanei HaOretz. Halei Mitala Shomayim, Habo Milmaila, Halei Ze Gevoya Yesha Mishmanei HaOretz. In other words, Tal HaShomayim, anything which comes from heaven, comes from a higher madrega. Heaven is higher than the earth. So just in pashtas, if you say something is from the heavens, and then you say something is shy to the earth, then that which is from the heavens seems to be higher. It tends to have a higher union to it. Particularly, as we know, the Tal is down in the Gemara, Masechta Tainus at the beginning, The tal is a very high madrega, and the tal is killed. The whole bria is dependent in tal, and the Gemara says that tal is such a high thing that the Eivusha never stops tal in the summer. He stops Geshem. Now that's become the winter. We have to hope that the Eivusha will give Geshem take over me, yard. Because there seems to be some strange hold up in the Gishomim. In other words, the Geshem is a thing which has to be given at certain times. But the Gemara says that without Tal, the whole world can't exist. The Tal goes the whole time, and Tal never stops, or is brought down in certain Sforim. And it says that indicates the fact that Tal is a very high madrega. It's Ki'u, which is beyond. We can't reach it through our Veda. It's so high that we can't really bring it down. But Geshem is something that we have to have a schus. We have to be able, through our Veda, to bring Geshem. That's the mashman of the Torah, Harbin Makimas. But Lafizeh comes to is that Tal is a very high madrega, and that's hindered in the fact that it's called Tal Shomayim. So there was the Rebbe that comes first, and then afterwards. Shmanei ha'oretz, v'havalei l'choira, lahaktim tchila mishmanei ha'oretz. The first of all, he should have said, v'item l'choira l'kim mishmanei ha'oretz mital ha'sho shomayim. Why? So the Rebbe said, the B'kol mokim, all places, ha'derechu lo'ima lo'izu afzu. אם כן, גם כאן, הבל אל מימה ריב דוגון ומשמני האורץ, ואחר כך מטר השו. All the things which are shy to Oretz, he should have said, and then he should have gone to Tal HaShemayim. And what's this Indian, the Riv, B'kol HaMakimas, Aderachu, Loizu, Af, Zu. That's a Gemara Masechet Eiluvin. The truth is, it's brought down in the Gemara over there, the Gemara says about a Mishnah over there, Masechet Eiluvin, and it brings out, learns out over there, when you get to Rova, Mishnayos, and I feel in Brisa, I love Davkia, in Brisa of Mishnah, that if we say several cases, some of which are easier and some are more chiddush, some are easier to understand, some are almost like pshita, you can almost ask, and then you say something in addition to that, and then you even maybe say something in addition to that, then you go from the simple to the more chiddush, that which is much more learning and surprising, and teaches you a much bigger Inyan, that you put towards the end. And therefore you say, Loizu Afsu. I don't really mean to tell you this, I mean to tell you also this, and then I mean to tell you also this. In other words, that you start off almost cancelling out the simple thing. It's always, I don't need to tell you that, do I? Because, you could really more or less work it out yourself. What I come to tell you, however, was this, and then I come to tell you this. In other words, first of all, I put the simple things, and then I put the bigger chiddush. So the Rebbe said, that's a cloud, b'kol mokim. The interesting thing is here that the Rebbe is saying that the Psukim should also do that. If that's a derech in Mishnah, and it's mashma there in the Gemara, that the Gemara wants to be medayik, as I from Psukim. Ibamele, it's mashma from the Gemara that that's the derech in the Torah b'klal, not just in the Mishnah, which is our sages, but even in Scripture, and on the contrary. That's the way they got to the whole principle. The fact that the Eibishter will give lower brachas like Dogon, Siroy, Shmani Horetz, those are lower things. Those are the things which are shy to Oretz. Tal HaShemayim was always a very high madrega. He should have first of all said all the things which are shy to Oretz, and then he should have said Tal HaShemayim. I feel of that I'm also going to give you. That's a very high madrega. That's a much bigger chiddush. Why was he makdim the big chiddush in that? Now the reason for that is that, if you learn the Gemara over there, you'll see that once I've told you the big chiddush, then the more simple things are not really necessary to say them. If I tell you something which is a really big chiddush, and I tell you simple things, you say, well, I've already told me how much bigger, why do you need to tell me that? But if you go with that shit and you say, well, first I tell you that, then I tell you something even bigger, and I go even bigger, then even though in a way that's also, you could answer, you could ask on that. Well, why don't you just tell me the big Kiddush, let me work everything out myself? Nonetheless, the Gemara's Metaktika, that is a seder that we find in Torah, that we first will tell you something simple, almost not needing to tell you that, then we tell you something like that, then we tell you the big that is Hadirach. Therefore the Rebbe is Metaktik to say, well, that's the way it's done in Torah. We say we should have started with Talasha. I'm sorry, we should have started with Shmani Oretz and with Rav Dogam Shir, Shmani Oretz, and we should have said at the end the Ikar Chiddush, which is Talasha. Gam Tzodik Lovin, Mashikosu Vayiten L'cho Ha'eliki. We need to understand that this is a very high point in the Torah. It's Yitzchak's bracha to Yankiv, but the Hashgacha Pratis brought about that was given Davka to Yankiv. Yankiv is the Ikar Shurish of all the Neshamas of all of the Yidden to come for all generations. And he got this unbelievable bracha with tremendous Mesiras Nefesh. He took a big risk on himself to get this bracha. And later Esau was furious. He couldn't take it. He'd missed out on the bracha. We see that's a very central inyan in Yitzchak being mamshich elakus lamata b'shvil bono for his sons and his generations to come. I say, why is it that it's written Hashem Elokim? Ulacha'ira havalei l'mayim Hashem ha'vaya. He should have said the Hashem ha'vaya. Harei kol ha'brachos v'giluyim hey Hashem ha'vaya. V'lo manema kan Hashem Elokim. In other words, it kol ha'brachos v'giluyim. But those are interesting expressions. What brachas means things which are higher than stam giluim. Brachas are things which we bring down and we mamshit. Alidei, somebody who's a very high koyach, or some very high koyach, which brings down a thing called bracha, which wouldn't necessarily have been there, begoli have not been for the mavorech. With the birchas koyanim, they go to Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmarecha, Yoel Hashem pona v'lecha v'cholo. We bring down the inyan of the brachas from a very high madrega, the kohanim. If we were not the kohanim, we wouldn't be able to come to such a level of v'cholo. Giluim l'chora means we're megala in yonei elakus no mailala lamata. So the Rebbe said that if we're making brachas, which is a big chiddush, that's l'chora in yonim, which wouldn't have normally come to inside the normal seder of gilui or seder ishtauslas. And even in the Yinif and Ishtauslas, all the Yonim which there in is Gila Elakus, no Maila Lamata, is also Alidei the Shem HaAvaya. Now what's the diktuk there? Because we know that in all places the Shem Elakim is the Shem HaGevura. That's in the Lashon HaMedrash, and in Lashon HaSiddur it's the Yinif and Shem HaTzimtzum. In other words, wherever we're holding back, or we're being mali zador, we want to hide over a certain inyan to make it not appear in all its intensity, or even to make it appear not for what it really is. Ultimately, when we reach the inyan from the yesh hilamata, then we're mali master on the giluim alidei shem Elohim. We're matzamtzim or malim the giluim alidei shem Elohim. Amamela shem Elohim zinyone is beika gvura. And since this is a inyan from a bracha, ikulis, to all the Yidden to come in all generations, Alidei Yankiva, of and it's an inyan ikri in Yiddishkeit, then it should have been the Shem Havaya, V'loma Ne'ema Kan Shem Eloi, Shem Elokim. But everybody's familiar with the famous teretz what Rashi brings down. Al Chaporim was brought down by Rashi Yosha in the text of Rashi over there in a lot of the Chomashim. It's brought down a teretz out there why it's written Shem Elokim and not Shem Havaya. Isn't it? Well, I can see that everybody's sort of brandishing in their minds, or some people not even bothering to do that. What's they talking about? What's it over there? In Rashi. So Rashi brings down over there that the Eibishter, when he gives to a Yid, he gives stuff through a din v'cheshbon. He gives you high things, but you've got to be worthy. You've got to work at it. You've got to make yourself worthy. You've got to have a kli through which you get it. V'yilu to the goyim, he writes over there, he gives pli din v'cheshbon. But to the goyim, he just gives them. Therefore, it's written here, the Shem Elokim, to show that to get this very high Indian, you've got to be worthy. In other words, there's a certain din, otherwise you're not going to get it. But that doesn't have to do with the Rebbe's kasha. The Rebbe is asking how it is mitzad elakus. Mitzad elakus, what is given is very, very high in yonim. Rashi is talking about matal, you've got to be worthy, and therefore it's like a certain din. However, if we look how it is milmayra, this is tremendously high in yonim, talish amayim, ishmani ahorim, and come to arichas, inila, tremendously high in yonim, and with a mitzad elakus should be inyan, then it should have been written the Shema Havaya, even though for you to be worthy of it, there's a certain play of the Shem Eloi, the Shem Eloi, Rashi was a very amazing Rashi. Rashi brings out the Rashi Zotot, and the far, if a guy says he wants something, and he doesn't get it, then he's brave with the eggs. He has a tiny, quite a tiger. He says something. I ask him something to give me. He said, Rashi, can I eat? If he asks and he doesn't get it, then he'll say that maybe he wasn't worthy right now. Maybe he has to work hard, and then he'll be worthy. And he'll say, bring to us. Purely plays. And that's also, the famous Gemara talk. Anyway, if we talk about all the Gemaras in the world, I'll get very far. But nonetheless, there is a Gemara in Sector Roshon, right near the beginning, and also in Pesachim. It's also put down Sector Pesachim. And the Gemara says over there that if a Yid gives tzedakah, but he gives it with a try, and he said, I'm only giving this tzedakah in order that my son should have a refuah. He's got a sick son. He's giving the tzedakah that his son should have a refuah shleima. Let's say the son didn't have a refuah shleima, and he won't say, listen, I gave that tzedakah, give me back my tzedakah. He didn't keep my condition. He'll just say, well, maybe I wasn't worthy. A Yid won't be credited. A Yid, even though he made the condition, he will say, well, at least I did a mitzvah. At least I gave it the tzedakah. I didn't get it. Well, maybe I wasn't worthy. But a goy, as he says, Rashi taught in Rosh Rashi seen a goy Yisleina. Complained to them. He said, listen here, I did a mitzvah, they'll tell me. You're the Panosa, and said, where are you? They state that's a penalty. But that's better what Rashi says over there. Well, I said the kash is not mitzad that. The kash is mitzad milmayla lamat. So it's quite an amazing bunch of kashiyas. Here what the Rebbe built, it's really mamish pillar place. And there's a tremendous amkis which is hidden in these few lines. But again, lachama v'kama inyonim and citizen in Yiddishkeit b'klal. And to understand that kasha is to really understand what the Rebbe is really asking. It's a gewaldige siyata dishmaya. What's really the meaning auch upon him Lahovin calls here to understand all this Charik lahaktim tchila mashen is poorly you be Indian yasher lemachake loy. Oh, that's the famous passage we bought from Shayanovi, that he's going to, the Avis is going to make it, he's going to bring the Gula Shlema for those who wait for him, lemachake loy. And who are they? Laman, the Dachinen, Milin, the Chukmasa. Those that they push themselves hard in the words of the Eibishter's Torah, the words of his wisdom. V'daikinen loin, and they're medactic, and they're medayik in every Indian, and they wait, and they pause, and they hesitate until they know what is the Emesa, Pirush, and what is the Emesa, Nakudas Emes in the Indian. That's the famous, you've heard the famous dictum relation in Yiddish, chap nicht. You heard people say one to the other in learning. They say chap nicht. Don't hurry. Don't jump. Don't jump. Let's take it easy and let's really sweat it away. And if we want to understand right now the Amish Pshat, but let's take it easy. Let's keep going. Ta'ikehu dafke ha'iyun va'yigia batoira. The Ike is the paying deep attention and the struggling and the toil in Torah. A man doesn't allow himself, almost, as you might say. He doesn't feel able at the first glance to understand. Hashkofa Rishayna means first impression, first glance. He's not like that. He can't learn that way. He can't just Hashkofa Rishayna understand what is being said. On the contrary, when he first learns the Indian and Torah, it's got difficulties. It's adequate presents him immediately with a kasha, with a difficulty and a deepness that he can't get at. Very much so. That's down. And the deeper he pays more attention to, the more he gets that kasha, or he gets other kashas. In other words, right from the beginning, will become more kasha until he comes into the profundity of that seichel. In other words, he comes into the helim of that seichel, not the gila of the seichel, but the helim, or that's what we call the oimek. And his bush that's beyond and higher than somebody who's got a sharp mind, that his seichel is choriv v'yochil. And he can find out what's going on deep in him in that with first glance. He might come to profundity, but he doesn't come to the profundity how it's connected with the emer. But like we pointed out, that's got to do with what we call kavana also. Amitas ha'inyan is not just what does the thing say, but what is it about? What is it really hinting at? What is it doing into this world, as you might say? Amitas ha'inyan kemoy alidei yagio. That somebody who does yagio, he davke shalidei zed davke boel amitas hakavana. You see the word kavana here? Davke. The word kavana. In other words, through yigia. In other words, a person with a sharp mind and a sharp cock, he might get to the profundity, but he won't see in the profundity. Go for the profundity. He won't see what is the whole thing really all about, and what's the kavana, what the should want with that. What is the emes with the union? He'll just know, all the sharp Indian, seichel should be there. I mean, a person that he really struggles hard, and with the illness of doing this, he will have care come to the amitiyas hakavana. Said the Rebbe, this doesn't get settled properly in the mind. It doesn't make sense properly. All of this. Now he's going to ask a famous kasha. The whole we have to struggle into, and after we learn and struggle and daikinim with the whole riches, that was a punishment. He should have said that was a inish, but never of all people. It happened by Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're going to see that because Moshe Rabbeinu hit the cellar and he didn't talk at it. Rashi brings out that whole thing. By the May Mariva, that Moshe Rabbeinu hit the cellar, and that was a big mistake. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's big error, that's what we can say. They came to the whole union of Yagir, but you have to struggle to get to the Emer. Had Moshe Rabbeinu not done that, it was known everything right from the beginning of the truth. So they said, he said it. And that's what he's medactic now. Barich is in that whole union of Moshe Rabbeinu, the union of Maimoriva. What are we making such a huge fuss here out of the infinite gear? Yagir is a punishment. We should be anxious to avoid Yagir. So some people might say, that'd be really of course he can't possibly take that. Tell him that. And that's one of the big things, that even when Moshiach will come, you're going to say, listen to Moshiach. We have to have tzomel l'chonav. We can't just have everything. It's like we've spoken about already on previous occasions. Good. So we'll have Marav in a few minutes. That close seems to be running a bit fast. What did the Marav just running a bit fast?